All right. I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. It is Wednesday, January 12th, 12:02, 53 degrees in Kitsap County. It has been raining cats and dogs. I don't even know where that saying has come from, but that's what it's been doing for the last 2 days. As you know, on Wednesdays at noon, it is tipping points and puzzle pieces with Mark Boatwright-Frost. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Marwan?
Oh, well, I'm blessed and highly favored as usual. So, always look forward to our conversations and our new show here in 2022. We've got a lot to talk about. So, we're going to jump right in. But first, I did want to make an announcement, which I think also kind of goes with what we have going on. It is now time to do the 2022 Kitsap County point in time count, and they need volunteers. Okay. So, when is this? It's a street outreach event on Thursday, January 27th from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then at food banks, Monday through Friday, January 24th through 28th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And there are working shifts. And then meal sites, Monday through Friday, January 24th through January 28th from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. They are very flexible and can accommodate operating schedules at different locations. Please give them a call at 888-222-5240 and press 6, or send them an email at info@northwesthospitality.org. That is nwhospitality.org. You can also go to the website at www.nwhospitality.org/events. All right. And so the reason why the point in time count is so important is, again, when we try to capture how many people, how many of our neighbors, how many of our community members in Kitsap County are experiencing homelessness. They're doing it. It's a one-day thing, right? Or when they're out there, if that person doesn't happen to be where you're counting, they don't get captured. So we know that the numbers are far higher than what is actually reported. And with that, right, we need to get resources. We need to address the issues, but we're not going to be able to address the issues. We don't want to leave anyone behind. So we need the most accurate count that we can get. So please, again, if you would like to volunteer for the 2022 Kitsap Point in Time count, please go ahead and call 888-222-5240. Now, if I'm not mistaken, last year that did not happen because of COVID. So we know the numbers have jumped from the year before till now. Mark, of course, I want to ask you a question while you're getting ready to sip your beverage there. What's your? I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on the point in time count for the homeless population.
I think data is the most important thing we can have. Accurate data. And we haven't been getting accurate data for decades. And it's not me pointing a finger at the federal government and saying that they aren't able to provide it. They have no sense of how to get the information. I mean, census is it's the best tool we have. That doesn't mean it's a great tool. My big concern about things like our economy and economic data, that gets maneuvered an awful lot. They keep changing the goal points, so we don't really have any information. Without that information, we don't know how well we're doing, and we can't address the problems. You know, the old adage, before you can address a problem, first you got to know you have one. And that comes back to data. So yeah, finding out how many homeless people we have, or a better approximation than we have currently, is a good thing.
Absolutely. All right, I appreciate your feedback on that. Data is critical. So we've got so many things to talk about. It's so hard to kind of bring it down to a singularity, if you will. So we got a few things that we have on deck that we want to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and send that on over to you to kind of lead the discussion. What's our first topic?
Well, you want to talk about Anton and his project. I'd like to hear more about that. Then I'd like to talk about how we get all of the people who are doing various things in this county together working together, because at this point, we're all struggling to find resources to identify the problem when somebody else may have data and they're just not sharing it because they're doing their piece of it. I mean, the Kitsap Community Foundation has a site about all of the nonprofits, but they give names and addresses, not what they do or what their focus is. I think we need a forum so that all of us can come together and have a discussion about how we can work together for the betterment of everybody.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up Northwest Hospitality's website here. And as you can see, this is what pops up. Everyone counts. Please register to volunteer to help with the 2022 Kitsap Point in Time count. Shifts will begin on the week of January 24th. That might be someone's birthday in hint. And our big street outreach effort, which is on Thursday, January 27th from 6 to 10 a.m. It looks like you can go ahead and volunteer right there. Okay. Go ahead and close this out. And well, what you're saying is absolutely correct, right? We do need to do a little bit more. Now, shout out to Anton. He has been on the conduit early last year. And so I'm going to go ahead and, maybe I'll click on his programs here, right? So he's got resource curation here. So if I click on that, direct access to the database, suggest updates to existing resources and submitting new resources. So if you want to find things, go ahead and click on that. You can find your county. I'll scroll down and find Kitsap here really quickly. And maybe you're looking for health. So this is something that he has been working on, just what you were saying, right? Is, okay, here are the organizations in Kitsap organized by category. And then when you click on it, now you can get a little bit more information. So maybe I shouldn't click on health. Maybe I'll do housing and hygiene. That's what we're talking about right now. So Kitsap Community Resources has their phone number listed, Catholic Community Services. So instead of that big list, as you said, these are itemized. Oxford Homes, North Kitsap Fish Line, KMH. So this is a really good resource that he has been building.
And I had no idea it existed.
Well,
I've been doing this work for a decade.
There's some great people in this community. I can tell you that he runs this out of his home, and another tireless person. Oh yes, I can absolutely put that link in the comment. Thank you for in the chat. I will absolutely do that. I'm gonna go back to programs here. There's these hospitality kits. Okay, so kits are a great way to serve the basic needs while engaging community members in fun, simple outreach projects. People learn about their neighbors and homelessness, and empathy has a good opportunity to grow. Kit distribution also creates invaluable opportunities to form new relationships and connect people and additional resources in their area. The average cost is about $6 to $8 per kit, and then you can also help distribute hospitality kits by donating here. Okay, so there's an itemized list. It shows the quantity on hand, supplies for each kit. So again, he is very meticulous. Just an awesome guy. This is actually Anton here. So shout out to him with his beard. I don't know if he still has his winter beard or not.
That is one awesome beard.
Hospitality cards. So here this is powered through, I think PFX is what that says. Kind of hard to see. PEX. Helps us directly support people serving homeless and enable their advocates with dignity and flexibility. Card users have been purchasing coffee, meals, clothing, survival necessities, and phone minutes, vehicle repair, tarps, tents, etc. And so you can give someone in need one of these cards and they can be reloaded, and then they can use them for those specific things. Shout out to Mr. Dent there. He is in Texas. He has just landed with Miss Stephanie. So shout out to you guys. Still supporting from out of town. That's awesome. Environmental hospitality. Volunteers from Northwest Hospitality are committed to taking care of the environment and showing our neighbors that we care about them and want them to be safe and healthy. Environmental hospitality events are scheduled to pick up litter around the homeless encampments and there are cleanup events. The next one is actually January 15th at the Veterans Memorial Park. All right. And as
Awesome.
I said, I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat so you have it.
Okay. And while you're doing that, Marwan, wouldn't
Mhm.
it be absolutely stellar if we could get a lot of these organizations together at the community fest we're planning for the end of in spring?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So BK Thane, that is now in the chat there. Shout out to Rob, and Miss Sabrina says hello. Shout out to her. And there is the link there. Now, one that I really wanted to pull your attention to is the mobile closet. Okay, now the mobile closet, volunteers want to meet you where you're at. If you are currently without a home or very low income, our mobile closet makes items freely available, but relies on volunteers to be able to make deliveries to access that may not be immediate, depending on volunteer availability. Request supplies. You can click on explore your closet below and pursue the closet to see if we can meet any of your needs. Use the link at the top of the page to create a login, build a request, and then send it to our volunteer team. Okay. And again, these things are itemized. You may have to log in to see that, so I may not be able to do that. But once you create that link, oh no, here it is. And so he takes pictures of everything he has, so you can get a good idea. All right, I need some kids' clothes. All right, this is what that looks like. This is a men's waist 33, length 30 pant, black dress pant, right? Great for work. And so all these things are here. He definitely could use volunteers to help do this. This is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. BK Thane says, thank you. Absolutely.
So, Marwan, question for you. You have a lot more experience working with United Way than I do. Um, I have tried to use their volunteer program to ask for volunteers for various projects that we're doing. And I've gotten a couple responses over the last couple of years. And every time we reach out to them, we get nothing back.
Now, I have not immediately used the United Way volunteer program, mainly because we go out and seek our own volunteers. But I will reach out. I actually know the executive director, so I will tap him. Maybe he'll come on to the conduit and have some conversations and share how to get volunteers for various organizations that are trying to do this work out here.
Excellent. Thank you.
The last thing I wanted to share on here was you can also itemize it by women's, girls, men's, boys. So you have a filter here, so you don't have to scroll through all of it, right? And so you can find what you need. And again, that is Northwest Hospitality. And I said, shout out to Anton. Definitely awesome person there. Although it just happened to be the current COVID cases there. Lots of research going on. But let's go ahead and get back to that. So I'm so glad that you asked to share that information, because one, now we've exposed it to folks that may also haven't known about it, like you, and then two, with many organizations, we may be known for that one thing, but oftentimes we're doing many things. So it's a good opportunity to kind of share that information. I'll see if I get Anton to jump back on here. I know he's super busy trying to ramp up for the point in time, but definitely want to support that and try to get other volunteers to volunteer for that.
And if you can send that flyer electronic format to me, I'll put it up on our sites as well.
Oh, you got it, for sure. Absolutely do that.
Yeah,
All right.
all
So
the people listening today, if you could share it as well, that would be awesome. The more word to get out there. I don't know if you know, part of what we're talking about today is connecting dots, but I want to point out to you that the social media platforms all have algorithms that basically allow about 10% of what you post to be seen by people in your friends list.
say that again.
So they say when you put out a post, only about 10% of the people on your list will see it. It'll propagate over time, but immediately only about 10% will
I think
see that.
that's being generous, I believe, Mark,
Yeah.
because I don't
Which makes
see
it-
anything from Resiliency Rocks. Unless I'm scrolling through my Facebook, I just don't see it. You know,
Exactly. And so everybody who's listening today should be out sharing everything, because the only way it gets out is when people share it.
absolutely.
If
Shout
you
out
think
to
it's
sharing.
important, share it.
Please do share. So I will put it on my Facebook page. I know typically if you send information to me, I will share it out. So yeah, please do that, and I will send that on to you. So
Excellent.
our conversation today is connecting the dots, and that was connecting one dot. So let's connect another one.
So, the way we are raised, the way we are educated, um, we aren't given the tools to do an analytics. Matter of fact, we tend to be scared of the idea of analytics or the math that's involved in it, even though it's fairly easy math. Um, Analytics is about data and seeing how things connect and putting them together. It's kind of what our whole organization is about, is connecting dots and understanding the data. So it's really important to see that one thing is not necessarily one thing. One thing is like a series of dominoes collapsing and cascading into a lot of other things. To use a point that we've already talked about, we have a lot of organizations, and I think Marwan at one point said there's almost 300 organizations in Kitsap County, nonprofit organizations in Kitsap County, and we don't know each other, and we're doing the same work, or work that should be connected to each other, because we're addressing different topics on the same subject. And so connecting those dots is vital. Communicating with each other is vital. Listening to each other is vital. But it's vital for a bigger reason, is that in our world today, a lot of dots are connecting in really unfortunate ways. They're going to increase the connections, and we need to understand what they are, and we need to start taking action. That action may be learning more about it. It may be getting involved in communicating it. It might be in gaining perspective on situation on what the world looks like, and seeing that it's different than we think it is. Those are all things that need to happen, and not like right away, not tomorrow, not like you're going to change everything, but over the next decade, the rest of your life should be learning about the world you really live in, not the world that we have projected on our television screens. To give an example of this, I talk a lot about water. In Kitsap County, we have an enormous quantity of special water districts, each of them controlling and distributing water and sewer to a group of homes. They don't talk to each other any more than the nonprofits in this county talk to each other. And the tribes and Kitsap Public Utility District, and conversations I've had with them, they say that they're very concerned about the status of water in our aquifers, because there's no centralized information on the state. When you think about, on this planet, only 3% of the water on the earth is fresh drinkable water. Only 3% out of all the water on the planet.
3%.
3%.
Wow.
So when you think about that, you think about Flint, Michigan. You think about the Cuyahoga River and the Burning River in Ohio. You think about the Duwamish River. You think about all of the various water sources that we waste and pollute. And God, there's no way to say this without sounding like, a flag carrying corporation hater, but we do a lot of things in the name of profit and jobs that are coming home to roost. And when they come home to roost, it's a really bad thing. And let me explain a little bit why as we start connecting the dots. Obviously, some of the statistics, you can live without water for 2 days, maybe 3. You can live without food for 2 weeks. So which is more important, food or water?
Water.
So, and here's the next piece. You can't grow food without water. So should we not be paying more attention to water? So let's break that down a little bit and connect those dots. 3% of water on the planet is fresh. We only have one planet, one resource. Out of the fresh water, we tend to not pay attention or not collect data to tell us what the health and or availability of the water, even in our own area, is. Water is so important that we can only live for 3 days without it. And by the way, the majority of Americans currently are dehydrated because we don't drink enough water. We drink sodas and everything else, but it does not do the job that water does. And we need water to grow food so that we have enough to eat. So would you say water is important?
Critical.
And in California, we've heard about the droughts and the water crisis. It's more dire than actually than is talked about. And yet, in all of these times, we pump water for bottled water out of the Central Valley, which has been water restricted, and even towns like Turlock around and Bakersfield, the towns around there, their wells are drying up. Yet we're pumping bottled water out of the middle of California. Why would we do that? These are the questions and the connecting dots. So we can boycott companies because we don't like their business practices, and that's a valid reason to boycott them. We can boycott companies for a lot of reasons. I think that it's important to start changing corporate behavior through boycotts because they're wasting resources that we are in critical need of today and are going to be in more critical need of tomorrow. Let me draw another little picture. About 10 years ago, I was running the Clean Technology Trade Alliance, and a humanitarian group out of Mexico called IHS came to us and said, over the last 2 decades, desertification caused by climate change has eroded the ability of Chihuahua, Mexico, to produce agriculture by about 80%. 80%. It has created a massive outmigration from the Copper Canyon to Juarez of over 100,000 people. And they were recruited by cartels and are being fairly lawless because they have no future. When you think about things like that, and the reason they came to us is because can we put together a plan to revitalize agriculture using less water in a more efficient way in the state of Chihuahua? And we were able to do that. And if you look at our website, which Marwan, if you could post our website up there, our website, and look at the Food for All project, it talks a bit about that. But the connection is desertification through climate change has then created a loss of agriculture and therefore food and livelihood, which created a crime rate and a social crisis. That's watching those dots happen in very clear fashion.
When you spoke about water earlier, one of the things that I was hearing was that these, well, one, you've got Bill Gates that is buying up farmland all over the place. And he is the biggest owner of farmland in the United States. But other organizations are trying to take ownership over water. Have you heard anything like that? And that seems alarming to me.
There's more questions that come up, and I'm always pushing to ask the next question. I've heard that several times. I also know that Costco spent approximately $50 million 2 years ago trying to shore up resources for their organic produce because they were seeing a crisis coming about the availability of produce. I know that Walmart's wholly owned subsidiary in the UK, ASDA, did a sustainability report in 2015 where they realized that 95%, and that wasn't 95%, of their produce was at risk due to climate change. So as climate change happens, water's one factor. The other factor is our agriculture practices are eroding soil. It's pretty much agreed by a lot of agriculture scientists that we have about 60 years worth of arable soil left. We can address it, but we would have to change our agriculture practices. So the next question I have when hearing about Bill Gates buying up farmland, the question is, so is he changing agriculture practices? Is he revitalizing that land, or is he just doing more of the same?
Right.
I don't know. That information, I mean, people scream about, well, Bill Gates is buying up the world. He's, doing Africa. He's doing this and that and the other. And, I look at it and I go, really, is he? Or are we just looking for something to be outraged about? If he's buying the land, maybe he's trying to revitalize the land by using biochar or heavy organic or organic materials to revitalize the soil. There's a gentleman. There's a film I screen sometimes called Need to Grow. It talks about a gentleman named Michael Smith who developed something called the Green Powerhouse, and it talks about the erosion of soil. It talks about ways to create organic liquids through algae and biochar through processes to revitalize the soil. And there was a guy in Irvine, California, who was growing organic produce, incredible organic produce, in these giant socks on a parking lot in Irvine, California. So his farm was completely without soil in the traditional sense, but he was growing in organic soil, I guess, in these giant socks, and he was growing kale that was like 4 or 5 feet high.
Really?
And he put some of Michael Smith's or algae-based nutrient in there, and it changed color and grew another 20% bigger.
Wow.
So we have the technology to do a lot of this stuff. We aren't doing it because it requires investment that takes away from shareholder profits.
So, one thing that I appreciate that you brought up was the fact that, we hear these stories, right? Wherever we get them, hear them from a friend, social media, a newspaper article, the local news, whatever. And what I appreciated about what you just said was, hey, look, there could be a flip side to it. So we shouldn't just automatically make an assumption. Yes, he did buy this land. That is a given fact. But B, what is the land, being used for? What is his intention? Well, no one has talked about that. There's a lot of assumptions and conspiracy theories. So I appreciate you saying, oh, no, we need to think about it and look at the other side of that. And so not look at everything through rose-colored glasses. So I think that's important to just point out there.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know. And I try not to judge until I have more data. I mean, you and all the people I work with have heard me, turn to them at some point and say, hey, that's not my circus and it's not my monkeys. I don't have time to get hooked into some anger or outrage issue about what could or couldn't be. Get me the data and I'll look at it. Mm-hmm. And when I get the data, then I'll decide whether it's something important to be addressed. But the honest truth is, I have more work here in Kitsap County trying to get people talking to each other than I have time to do.
Right, absolutely. So can you, for folks that may not be making the connection, there's so many things that they're dealing with in the world, right? Inflation, COVID, all these other things, right?
Yep.
And, you're saying there's 3% of the water is drinkable. I think about Flint, Michigan. I think there's another city right now that are having some water issues. Hawaii is having some issues with the military down there and the jet fuel.
In West Virginia, they have faucets where you can light the water on fire. Tennessee, I think Detroit, I think that's shown up in several states. And that's been tied back to fracking. Fracking chemicals getting into the water tables.
So let me ask, as just a regular everyday person just trying to survive out here, why is that important to me? And is there anything that I can do?
Yeah, there is something you can do. You can go meet your neighbors. You can talk to them. You can learn all you can and then just sit down and have conversations and listen to what their fears are. We as people are just one person and we feel helpless, and our culture pushes us toward feeling that helplessness, that lack of power, because we are individuals and we don't have a voice. But our Constitution says we the people. And we are the people, but we have to come together and talk. And that's the thing that scares the hell out of us. We are afraid to go have a conversation with our neighbor because they may not believe the same things we believe. They may, go to a different church. They may have voted for a different party. And what I try and teach people, and what we do is we say, well, is that's important. I'm sure that's everybody is important about their religions, their politics, their business, their viewpoints. But what if there's a viewpoint and a foundation underneath all of that? What if the viewpoint and foundation is, I want water to drink, I want food to eat, I want shelter, I want warmth, I want loved ones. As a matter of fact, I heard just the other day that everybody on the planet just wants to love somebody and be loved. What if we get down to that? Just that. Is there a way we can have a conversation with people who we might not normally agree with if we get to the base factor of, we just want to love and be loved, we want to eat food, we want to drink water, we want to be healthy, we want our loved ones to be healthy?
Absolutely. So, what you're saying, then what I'm taking from it is, as an everyday person, the reason why it's important to me is there's a really finite amount of drinkable water on this planet, and I have to be concerned about that because I need it. My kids need it. My grandkids need it. And you're saying 60 years, we're not going to have usable soil. Well, if you've got a 10-year-old, your 10-year-old is likely to be alive during that time. Will I live to see a 109? Probably not. But that's not a long time from now, right? And things are going to get precipitously worse as we go along. It's just not going to be a cliff, right? You're going to see these things happen. And we have
every year it will be a little worse.
We have huge food insecurity throughout the world, and it just shouldn't be, right? I mean, we not only do we have it here locally, but we have it throughout the world. This is a global issue.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a left turn here.
Sure.
It's another dot to connect, and it might help people understand the bigger picture here. We have a commodities market here in the United States where we essentially gamble on the price of the food. And it has been manipulated in the past so that people gain profit off of the price of food changing. Think about that. We gamble on the price of our food. Now, there are people who have food insecurity. We have an all-time high in the SNAP program right now. People all over, and we talked about this a little last week, there's more people on food stamps than ever in the history of the United States. We have a higher rate of poverty in the United States than ever before. And, I don't want to argue with people, but it's just the way we read the numbers. And I mean, according to the federal government, I think poverty level is between $17,000 and $23,000 a year. Seriously, can you live on $17,000 a year? Can you live on $23,000 a year? I think it was Princeton University, might have been Pepperdine, that put out a study a couple of years ago that said, at this point, if you're not making $48,000 a year, you cannot afford to live in this country. And if you're looking at rents going up, you look at the cost of healthcare, that's not a hard argument to make. Food prices have gone up 20% in the last year. Availability, the shelves are empty. And that's going to be something we're going to see more and more of. Prices going up and shelves being emptied. What can we do about it? We can come together and start producing food locally and gain some control over our food intake and our food production. We can promote victory gardens and community gardens all through the county. There are a lot of efforts doing that. Now, I'd like to be able to list them on a site so that people can go, anybody in their area can go and start working with these folks to produce food. Nice. There's the Food for All project we're doing, which is to put grow centers throughout the entire county and be able to produce enough food to supply produce to grocery stores. And if we do aquaponics, even fish to some degree. These are things that we can all do, but it requires us coming together and applying pressure to make it happen. And it's Zoning rules, going to need people showing up and saying, we want to zone this for this. We want the markets to buy locally. Then we're going to have to push people to we have to go to the stores and say, listen, your prices have gone up 30, 40%. The produce isn't as good as it used to be. We have a local program. We want you to buy local.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what you're saying there too. If I can jump in there,
sure.
Is, I'm a real big person of empowering people, empowering yourself. What can I do, right? And so you're giving us the answers there, right? Get involved.
Yeah.
Learn how to garden.
One quick second. Hey, Christina, try zucchini as well. All right.
Learning how to garden, educating yourself on that. And then, the big one is getting involved, right? So if you're talking about zoning laws, right? Well, who decides what the zoning laws are? Well, you say the people are because they vote the people in that make those decisions. But if those people that are there aren't making those decisions, then we have to be the ones that start running and occupying
or showing up.
Yeah.
If you show up at a commissioners meeting, you get 500 people in there saying, we want this zone for this. Their idea about what's important shifts. If you show up at a city council meeting and there's 200-300 of you saying, yeah, no, we want this to be done this way. But that's a grassroots movement, and that's really what we're talking about here.
I love it. I think it's great.
So yeah, and going back to Christina for a moment, yeah, you can also use zucchini for lasagna. Makes great lasagna with zucchini sliced up. All right.
I love it.
So I love food and I love to cook. So of course, food is a real passion for me, and therefore water is, because without water, you don't get food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Our topic today is connecting dots, and we've done that with Anton and the point in time count that's going on. So shout out to him in Northwest Hospitality. We're talking about water. We're talking about gardening, community, building relationship. Do you have another one that you want to jump into today?
Yeah, actually a lot. I do want to do a teaser right now.
Sure.
I kind of threw the teaser out that we are planning on a community fest in springtime. And we want to get a lot of these organizations in the room. We want to get a lot of the churches in the room who work with community and do a lot of good work. We also want people to come into the room because we want to do a town hall meeting where people have questions. We can answer questions. We can talk about how things work and help them understand how they can get involved in making their own lives better together through a grassroots movement. But more of a teaser is something that the Resilient Ecosystems and the Gets Up Resiliency Project have been working on. That's a fairly new project for us, but we're very excited about, called Innovation for All. You'll hear the for all a lot with us. We have Food for All, which you've heard about. We have a Power for All, which I'll talk about in a second. Water for All. And these are projects to address the issues around water, food, and create security around them, because really it's about coming together and creating security. Neighborhood by neighborhood throughout the community. But Innovation for All is a little different. There are a lot of solutions that are very viable or could be very viable that are fairly inexpensive and easily adoptable today, either in your home or in the local utilities through the municipalities that could address some of these issues. So we are reaching out to innovators through YouTube, throughout the county, throughout the colleges, and asking them to step up, choose a platform or choose a solution, a problem, and come to the table with the answers to that. The website is being developed. It will go live next week. One of the things we're looking at is putting together a board of reviewers to look at the viability and the adaptability of all of the solutions. But we're doing this in several ways. And one of the pieces of this is, of course, the actual innovation itself. But we're also inviting people who do policy and understand how to put policy together and go through the maze of policy to go through the adaptation, getting it adopted and in place for the communities once we've determined that it's viable. The third piece that we have is educators and influencers. And Marwan is one of those, certainly. Um, and there are a lot of other people, both locally and through YouTube, that we're inviting to put out the message of grassroots community resilience movement, bring it local, and make it work so that the community thrives. When we say that resilient communities thrive, they create resources and capacity that allows for greater security than you can ever have with the largest police force or military presence. It gives food production, it gives power production, communication, it does redundancy in the systems, and it takes it out of the for-profit shareholder payout to what's important to us and what we need to live. Okay, soapbox down. So you asked me to talk about another connecting dot. So let's talk about power.
Sure.
And I think we're all fairly versed in Enron and what happened with that, and a lot of the and PSE and the Paradise fires and their lack of maintenance, the power outages that we all see up here, and are constant flowing. We have not substantially upgraded the power grid since the 1960s when it was put in. We haven't. And we deregulated it in the 80s, and we made it a for-profit industry. And there doesn't appear in any of the research and reading I've done, and I've done a lot of it, to be anyone responsible for upgrading that infrastructure. In 2000, there was software available that would be able to identify where a power outage is at on your network and direct people to it to fix it before it got to be sending crews out everywhere. The utilities, by and large, declined to purchase that software. In 2004, we had the power outage that put most of the Northeast out of power because of one tree and fell down on a line in Ohio, and dissimilar software and poor training and interface between the rest of the country created a catastrophe. I did read the entire report for that, and it could have been resolved with software training and a unified approach to delivering power to the grid and managing the alarms and software and managing the grid. So 2011, Fukushima happened, and we saw the worst of the worst happen, other than Chernobyl, of a nuclear power plant. And Germany decided that was it. They're going off nuclear. And for the last 10 years, they have almost 11 years now, they have been working to go off nuclear power. They have replaced that with renewable energy, natural gas, hydro. Even before Fukushima, they were paying farmers to put wind turbines up in the fields to create a third crop for themselves of wind and generate income from that. They are in the process of changing their utilities over from for-profit utilities selling power to utilities providing infrastructure, which is what we have to do here if we're ever going to see solar on roofs. The net metering process guarantees that very few people are going to end up with it. The people who are have the financial wherewithal to get that to get the solar on the roofs. Also, the downside of the net metering program and the way that the utilities are installing solar is that when power goes out, you're as dark as your neighbor is, because the solar is not powering your house, it's powering the grid. So we need to change the priorities here. We need to change the priority to powering the house first, the community second, the grid third.
Mark, say that again. Say that again. So if you have solar and your power goes out,
your house is dark.
Really?
Yeah, because it's powering the grid. You're feeding the grid. That's how you get the incentives paid back to you, is you're providing power to the grid.
Is there a way to create some kind of a breaker where you can cut it
Sure.
off in that time?
And
Because
then,
wow,
how much time do you want to jump through hoops to get that process in place?
right,
And how
right.
much money do you want to spend to power your house first? Also, the minute you start powering your house first, you stop getting incentives from sending power to the grid
Mm,
because you're not sending as much power to the grid. So you're not paying as much of a power bill, maybe not paying any of the power bill because you're actually powering your house. But with the net metering program, you're powering the grid, and essentially you're getting paid back for the amount of power that you are providing the grid.
gotcha. Okay. Man, that's
Yeah,
tough. I didn't know that.
yeah. So if you go back to doing math, it's really simple math, but it doesn't work out and it doesn't stand up. And if people actually ran the numbers, you'd realize that, okay, so this doesn't make any kind of sense if you're trying to install renewable energy. The biggest hiccup has been power storage, and there's actually a wide range of power storage available that's perfectly efficient. And the prices are coming down. And if lithium ion is too expensive, then you can go with a saltwater battery or lithium iron battery, which are just coming out that are going to be phenomenal for storing. You can't make them small like a lithium ion battery, but they for a community sized power storage, you don't need small. There's lots of technology and lots of information out there about this, but people don't have it. They have to rely on the agencies. And the point is, and I hate to say this, but the agencies' goals and human needs don't really have a lot in common. PSE is owned by a multinational conglomerate that does something with retirement funds, and their interest is the money coming out the other end, not our needs.
So again, what do we do here? You
Right.
know, you're saying to educate ourselves, and which is the first
And
step.
well, yeah, so we'll move off of power and we'll connect another dot, and we'll talk about individual versus a neighborhood or a group of people working together. After every single disaster, we see people helping each other. All we want to do is start that in advance to get people working together. In virtually every neighborhood, you'll find somebody who's in healthcare. What if that person were identified and you got them supplies to be able to take care of your neighborhood in time of a disaster to help people? What about people who grow food in your neighborhood? Maybe you can all get together and start doing a community garden and providing, something other than zucchini when it grows to all of your neighbors. Um, Sorry, bad joke, but there it is. We've all had gifted zucchini. Um, What about the people who actually can grow things and fix things and rig things up? There's one of them in almost every neighborhood. It's time to get to know our neighbors. And it's time to start having block parties. It's time to start getting together and breaking bread. It's pastime. It is the most human thing we can do. And yet it's the one thing we don't do. I can't tell you how many people I know that say, well, I have guns in my gun cabinet. I've stored 6 months worth of food. And I'm ready for anybody who comes to try and take it away from me. So, is that really going to work in a disaster? Really? We are not designed to stand alone. We are designed to stand together. We are tribal entities. We just don't know how to define the tribe anymore. And I think our tribe is anyone we're around, anyone who can work with us, anyone who can love and care and likes food. And I will tell you, I'm not interested in being a prepper or survivalist because I have no desire to eat MREs for 6 months. I'd rather grow fresh tomatoes and cucumbers and leafy green vegetables and have a garden. I'd love to grow zucchini so I can have spaghetti with those tomatoes. There's a lot we can do together that we cannot do alone.
Facts. And you just gave a great example, right? You started off by saying, hey, get to know who your people are, and talked about the nurse and the supplies, and then you contrasted that with the person that has all the guns and the food and can lock themselves up. But if they get hurt, they're going to need the nurse. So, it's like
Yep.
we got to do it together. You can trying to hunker down and see it through. But man, you don't want to survive. You want to be resilient.
You want to thrive.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: if we put 200 grow centers in Kitsap County, providing food for grocery stores and a percentage for food banks and food lines, we can create 1,000 jobs right here in Kitsap County, a whole new industry, and 1,000 jobs would make it one of the largest employers in Kitsap. What about that? Is that not thriving? Not to mention building relationships with people and being able to sit down with them. And I know with COVID, that's everybody's going, oh my God, I don't want to sit down with my neighbors because I've got COVID, or the COVID's out there and it's going to get me. But at some point, we will reach immunity on that, and we will need to be face to face again. Or we can take safety precautions and maintain social distancing and wear masks. But the fact is, we need each other, and we need to find a way to make that happen.
Well, and for my part, that's why the podcast exists, right? It's like, well, we can't wait until we get to the other side. We don't know how long this is going to be, right? Oh, it's going to be 6 months. Oh, it'll be a year. Now we're going into year, what? We're going into year three now, right?
Yeah, we're going into year
So
three.
it's like we can't wait until things are the perfect condition to fix the situation. You've got to find unique ways to kind of work on it now,
Yep. And speaking of that, tonight at Black Ring Distillery in Port Orchard, which is in the South Kitsap Mall, we are doing a meet and greet. We do it the second Wednesday of every month. And for those of you who like drinking, Tom makes some of the best bourbon there is. And we answer questions, we talk, we laugh, we have a good time. We will be doing social distancing. We will be doing the masks. But come find out what it's about. We also do a passport of on your journey to resilience. Come get your passport, and we'll put stamps in it, and we will tell you the other things that we're doing. We're going to be doing a screening of the movie Shockwave, which is the information and science behind Cascadia Rising. Christina, if you're still on, you want to give a pop into chat about what your thought was. I know you've seen it. We'll be doing a screening of the movie Need to Grow. Just found a new movie that I'm going to be taking a look at and deciding whether we're going to put that up. But yeah, we'll talk about the projects we've got going on and how you can help make that happen. So yeah, it'll be 6 to 8 p.m. at Black Ring Distillery. The mall closes at 7. The doors lock at 7:15, so please be there before then. But hang out and let's have a talk.
Love it. And this is a plug for them. I will give a shout out to Black Ring. Their alcohol is delicious. That is a coffee whiskey. That
Joe.
Oh man, it's fantastic. So that is my new home bar. So it's so interesting how things happen, right? This winter, we started doing the workshops at the Black Ring, and then shout out to Pastor Ellington, got me this decanter set. So you got to have something to put in there. So there you go. So that's how those things kind of happen. So shout out to them. But yes, the address at Black Ring is 700 Southeast Mile Hill Drive, Suite 116 in Port Orchard, 98366. They are open 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. And again, tonight the meet and greet is what time?
6 to 8 p.m.
8. All right. So absolutely come on out. Man, we went over quite a bit today, didn't we?
No, it's 12:56. We got 4 minutes.
All right.
Oh, you mean covered what we covered? Okay, sorry. We are frequently overrunning our time, so that's where my mind went.
Well, we are going to be working on some formatting and doing some really kind of quick shots because there's so much to talk about, right? Like you said, this stuff needed to happen a long time ago, and we're getting into it. You've been doing this work for decades, right?
Yeah, Well, actually, since 2007.
2007. So
Yep.
getting the rest of us together and figuring that out and seeing what our puzzle piece is and how we can bring it to bear. This is part of me bringing my puzzle piece and connecting and building that. I'm looking forward to having my block party this spring or summertime. So, and I know there's a few other folks that are going to do that too. So, having food around is a great way to get to know people and create that community. So I'm super excited about that.
Yep. And by the way, we will be having the Resilient Communities Thrive pins tonight. So come get your pin, wear it proudly, and let people know that we think that resiliency is the way to go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wow,
Um,
we've almost run out of juice, and we've got 3 minutes to go. How did that happen?
well, it's all good. Nothing wrong with that. Well, we didn't really have any tech issues, at least none that I'm going to share. But it makes things a lot easier for sure.
And this is forcing me to up my game. I'm getting a new camera, so the video will be a little bit better quality.
Well, and I'll let you know. What's really cool is for the next workshops, we'll have this new camera that everyone has seen me play with on hand. So we won't have to have all of the cameras and microphones that we had before, and then we actually have wireless microphones now. And it was really good this holiday to the conduit, so people will be able to move around and walk, and you'll be able to use your whiteboard and do lots of cool things. So just super excited for 2022 and all the work and collaborations and the growth, right?
Yep.
For me,
And
I
we are
tell people,
scheduling more workshops. Probably be putting out word on that later this month. And the workshops are designed as a teach-a-teacher process to go through and figure out how to put together grassroots networks, how to become a leader in your neighborhood, how to put all of that together. And all of them are filmed, and Marwan does podcasting for us. And we will be putting them up on both the Kids of Resiliency site and on the Conduit.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if I can send out a challenge to everyone, you know, uh, when I did my New Year's address, learn something new every week. I hope you have some goals set to build on yourself. I'm going to learn how to garden this year. That's a big one. I learned how to do static IP addresses last week, so that's one. But lifelong learning is really important, and if we're going to make the change, we've got to get involved. And a lot of times, people are like, "Well, what do I do? Give it to me. Just tell me what to do. Give me A, B, C, D, E, F, G." And it's really hard to do a layout because everyone's path is going to be different, right? Everyone's puzzle piece is unique. And so one of the biggest things that you can do is just start reading and consuming information.
Yep.
And there's going to be an interest, right?
Daniel Quinn's Ishmael. You should read Daniel Quinn's Ishmael. That's vital, and we'll talk about that in another meeting coming up. I think Marwan. I think next week we need to talk about puzzle pieces and let people know that everyone has one, even if they don't know it.
All right. I like it.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and put this in the link. And I think that'll be our show for today. Let me see if I can
Awesome.
pop it in there. Of course, the dreaded Amazon. One day I'll be able to not have to. I'm going to put up ishmaels.org. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure.
These shows go really fast.
An hour goes quick, and there's so much information.
Yeah.
There's so much. Well, I definitely appreciate you. Again, tonight is the meet and greet.
Yep.
Please subscribe, like, and share. Check out the website, www.roseecho.org, and the Facebook page, which I never remember, Mark. What is that?
Oh, it's just the Kitsap Resiliency Project.
Absolutely. And we will be here again next Wednesday at 12 p.m. And also, Mark will be putting on the Facebook page and soliciting questions and topics from you. So if you want things that you want us to talk about. All right? So, for Mark, I am Marwan. This is The Conduit, and we will see you